This is Rita. I'm the immigration consultant at North Horizon Immigration. I have not done any videos in a very long time due to COVID-19. This pandemic was extremely difficult for our company because there were so many changes. There's still a lot of changes. So for the clients that we already had, we just were working around the clock trying to resolve their problems. So today I am going to talk about big news. That's why I'm recording on a Saturday. So it is February 13th right now. And this morning we woke up with the news that the Canadian government, through express entry, invited a lot of people. But I mean a lot of people. It's never happened before, and we were very shocked. We thought that maybe it was a mistake, maybe the system was hacked, but so far it seems to be real. So I'm going to tell you more about this situation. The Express Entry Program invited 27,332 people all at once. So this is a really big number because usually they would invite 3,000, 4,000 people on average every 2 weeks. Okay, so now in one day they invited over 27,000 people. Now it's really important that you know which kind of people got invited, because it's people might misinterpret this situation, and unfortunately some consultants or lawyers might take advantage of the situation to kind of convince everybody you should get in the pool of candidates, get your profile on Express Entry. So who actually got invited is very important. It's not just anyone. Only people who are considered Canadian Experience Class got invited. Canadian Experience Class is very specific. These are people who have minimum 1 year of work experience in Canada at an NOC level 0A or B. This means that the jobs that they were doing were probably something that required some sort of education, or at least, on job, a lot of training, which would be NOC-B. So that's the first thing you have to know. If you are not in Canada, if you don't have 1 year of work experience in Canada, don't get excited, okay? So this really was only inviting Canadian Experience Class. The other thing that was interesting is the score. So of course they invited 27,000 people. Obviously the score was much lower, the minimum score of invitation. In this case, the minimum score is 75. So I mean, that's really a minimum score, because when you work 1 year in Canada, you already get 35 points. So you only have like 40 more points to go, which really would be your English or French level. So that's kind of what's happening right now. The important questions that we have to ask ourselves is, well, what comes next? What's going to be the future for this Express Entry program? The truth is, we don't know. This was a big surprise that the government did this, and we don't expect this to be happening forever, right? So we have to understand why the government did this. First of all, of course, this is only my guess, but we are during COVID right now in a very tricky situation. There's a lot of people who may have lost a job, or some people who have a job, but they cannot extend their work permit. And there could be many reasons why a person's working right now and they simply cannot extend their work permit. And the government doesn't want these people who are already in Canada, already have 1 year of work experience. They don't want to lose these people. And then all these companies would be left without their workers. So the other thing that's happening is that a lot of airlines have canceled their travels. So including Canadian Airlines are not flying in some countries anymore, and in other countries airlines are not coming. So that means that if these people who are on a work permit, if they don't get invited to Express Entry, how are they going to handle the situation once their work permit is expired? So to avoid having a bunch of people here on illegal status or on tourist status, the government, this is my assumption, the government probably just said, hey, let's invite these people. They're here, they're working, let's get them in as permanent residents. So again, if you've seen the news, because I'm sure there's lots of places that have talked about this, if you are not Canadian Experience Class, if you do not have 1 year of work experience in Canada in the last 3 years, NOC level 0A or B, this is not something that you should be considering and it doesn't mean that the government is going to start inviting every week people with very low score. We don't think that that's going to happen. All right. So that being said, I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on because of COVID-19 and what are the changes right now in specific programs that might be interesting to you. So the first thing I'm going to touch on is international students. What's going on with international students? Are they even coming to the country? The good news is yes. As of December 2020, so just a few 2.5 months ago, international students were starting to be allowed to enter Canada. So that's very nice. It doesn't mean that it's easy. It's still the same process. You still have to send an application and you still have to do your biometrics. Doing biometrics is probably right now the biggest hurdle in the logistics of a student permit application because many biometric centers are closed around the world. All right, so if you're in a situation that you need to apply or you're thinking you want to apply to a student permit in 2021, you have to double check if your biometric center is open in your city or in your country. If it's not open, when will it be open? Again, we don't know, but you have to look at the situation in your specific country. Is the government doing anything to get people vaccinated? Are you in a high alert, crisis alert that there's lots of cases? In such case, if the coronavirus is like out of control in your country, chances are the biometric center is not going to open anytime soon. So you'd have to look into flying to another country or traveling to another country where the biometric centers are open. So right now, one of the countries where the biometrics are open and centers will be open probably for a long time is the United States. So if you can travel to the United States, that might be a place where you can get your biometrics done. I think in some places in Europe also the biometrics are open. So that's something you want to consider if you want to apply to a student permit during 2021. The other thing that's happening with the students, and this is students who started their application in 2020 and they were unable to actually travel to Canada. So these students may have received a letter that said, you can study online. Your Canadian education program can be done online and we're going to accept you as if you had studied in Canada all the way to April 30th, 2021. So that meant that anybody who was abroad studying online for a Canadian university or a Canadian institution or college, that time of studying online would have been considered for their post-graduation work permit. That rule was just extended all the way to December 31st, 2021. Okay, so it used to be all the way up to April, but anybody who was worried and who cannot travel before April 30th, rest assured, you can keep studying online all the way to the end of this year of 2021, and that time will count for your post-graduation work permit when you graduate, okay? So those are really good news that came out this week. Another good news that came out in January was for people who have post-graduation work permits. So as you may know, people who come here and study either a college degree or a university degree, they can often receive a post-graduation work permit, which is a work permit for after graduation. This work permit might be from 1 year to 3 years in length. But the problem is right now for these people, if they're in Canada and they're working and their work permit is coming to an end, and they didn't get an express entry invitation today, for example, well, what's going to happen? They're going to have to go home. So that's not something easy to do during COVID. And so for this specific circumstances, the government said, it's okay, we will actually, for the first time ever, allow you to extend your post-graduation work permit. So this is happening right now. So if you have a post-graduation work permit and you're worried because it's almost done and you're still not sure how you can apply for permanent residency, or maybe you lost your job during COVID and now you're worried because you haven't been working for so many months and your work permit's about to expire, rest assured, you can actually extend your work permit. The extension will be available for 18 months, but you can't just apply, you got to do this fast. So basically there's two like two ways for you to be eligible. One way is if your work permit expired on January 30th, 2020, so not last month, but actually like a year ago. So if your work permit has already expired and was expiring on January 30th, 2020 or later, so anytime starting January 30th all the way till today, you lost your post-graduation work permit because it expired, you can apply for an extension. And another person who can apply for an extension for this is a person who's currently on their post-graduation work permit, and they still have 4 months on their work permit. So if you're within that time frame between today and the day that your work permit expires, it's 4 months, you can apply for an extension. And you have to be careful because you will only be allowed to apply for an extension all the way till July 27th, 2021. So if that's your case, you have a post-graduation work permit, it's going to expire soon, make sure you do your extension application online before July 27th, 2021, and you will get a work permit for another 18 months. Okay? So that's happening. Now, the last topic of today is how do we actually travel to Canada? What's going on right now with authorizations to travel? So if you are a person who needs a visa to travel to Canada, the high chances are that you will not get this visa. Obviously, you can't come here as a tourist. If you have a family member who's here, like a student or a worker, and you are their spouse or you're their kid and you're abroad, can you come visit them? Only if you have a visa or your passport requires an ETA and you have your ETA. If you don't have an ETA, you can apply for it. But anybody who has family members in Canada who are, their spouse or their parents, if you're younger than 22 years old, you can come here. You need to ask for an authorization. It's actually an email that we send to the government asking for an authorization for you to come. Now, let's pretend you have this authorization and you can actually come here. What happens? How do you actually plan your trip? Well, the first thing you have to do is get a COVID test in your country. So you have to get this test. I think it's PRC test. It has to be negative, obviously, and you need to have done it no later than 72 hours before getting on the plane. That means if you get on the plane today, your PCR or PRC test COVID cannot have been done 4 days ago. Okay, no more than 3 days between the day you take your test and the day you board your plane to come to Canada. Now, be careful, because if you need to do a layover somewhere and that extends your trip and your trip is now 24 hours, well, you have to factor that in, because if that's the case, you're going to have to take another test before you actually board the last plane that comes to Canada. So first thing, get your test in your country of residency, and obviously it has to be negative. The second thing you have to do when you arrive to Canada is, first of all, there's only 4 airports right now that are going to accept international travelers, and that's the airport of Toronto, Montreal, Calgary, and Vancouver. It makes sense. It's the 4 biggest cities in the country, so that's why. When you arrive to Canada, you will have to do another test. Okay, you can't get out of this one. You have to do another COVID-19 test. In our airport in Toronto, I think they're already doing it, but as of February 22nd of this year, so that's a few days from now, all the airports are going to have this implemented. So you do your other test in Canada, and then comes the big surprise. You are not going to get a result right away. The results are going to take 3 days to arrive. And during those 3 days, you are forced to go into a specific hotel that the government's going to tell you which one it is, that you're going to book in advance before arriving. And unfortunately, your 3 nights at that hotel is going to cost you minimum $2,000. This has been announced. The Prime Minister said it, and that's just the price to pay to be in Canada right now. So after you spent those 3 days in the hotel and we've got your test results back, if they are negative test results that you don't have the virus, you still need to quarantine for another 11 days. And that quarantine, you can do it anywhere. So let's say you arrived to Vancouver airport, but your final destination was Kelowna. Well, in this case, you've done your 3 nights of quarantine in the hotel in Vancouver. you got your test back negative, you can now get on a bus, or I don't know actually if buses are accepted, but you can find a way, rent a car, and go to Kelowna. And then in Kelowna, you will have to do your 11 days of quarantine. You can book another hotel, you can do it at an Airbnb, maybe you have a family or friend that you can stay at their house, but you have to be quarantined during that remaining 11 days, okay? They announced that they will also do another third COVID-19 negative test on the 10th day of that quarantine to make sure that before you get out, you actually are negative, but they haven't given us too many details on that, so we're still kind of waiting. But for sure, as of February 22nd, you must do a COVID-19 test upon arrival to the Canadian airport, pay $2,000 minimum, stay 3 nights in a hotel, quarantine until we got your negative results. If your results are positive, they will take care of you. They haven't told us what they're gonna do, but they will take you to like another specific center probably to get some care. All right, so that's that. Let me see if there's any questions right now in the chat. You're gonna have to bear with me here because I'm not very good with this. Okay, which province is easier to enter? Danielle, I don't know if you're still here. There are no easy provinces to enter. Every single province will have the same registration program. You can't really, it makes no difference which province you go to. Will the Canadian government be issuing, this keeps disappearing, sorry guys, have some patience with me. Will the Canadian government be issuing visas for students coming in the fall semester? That's a question from Sarba. So yes, Sarab, sorry. Yes, the Canadian government is already issuing student permits. Okay, so they started issuing student permits last December. The way that it worked in 2020 is that we sent applications for student permits, and starting in March, honestly, March 2020, last year, we didn't get any answers. We were not getting any answers, okay? No matter how nicely we had done this application, even if the programs were starting in September. So what happened was that on August 31st, 2020, so imagine most people had their program starting on September 5th or September 8th. So 1 week before, August 31st, we received letters for all of the applications. And you know what the letters said? They said, thank you very much for your interest in studying in Canada. If you want, you can study in your country online. We will accept your online studies all the way till April 30th, 2021, as if you had studied them in Canada. So that wasn't a lot of fun because obviously some people are in countries where the time difference is so big that it makes absolutely no sense to study online because, you know, they would have to wake up at 3 a.m. to be able to take their classes. And so those people decided to just postpone their studies until the next semester. And then by December 2020, we actually received letters of acceptance with visas, like that authorized people to travel to Canada. Okay, but in order for that to happen, your biometrics have to be done. And as I said before, many biometric centers around the world are closed. So that's something else you have to worry about if your goal is to come and study fall 2021. So of course, anything can change. The COVID virus keeps mutating. So if this goes out of control again, they might stop accepting international students again, but that's not their plan. That's not what they want to do. If an international student is accepted to start in the fall of 2021 and their biometrics are done and everything, then I would say start saving up for that hotel, $2,000, 3 nights that you're gonna have to cover, because as long as you can show that you have your COVID negative test, you can enter the plane and then coming out of the plane, do another test, do your quarantine, and then you'll be out. We don't know what's going to happen with vaccines. The government has not issued any information on that. We don't know if somebody says, I got vaccinated in my country, can I enter Canada? We don't. Right now the answer is no. This rule applies to everyone the same way, whether you have vaccine or not. You still have to do your quarantine and your COVID test. I hope that answers the question. What else do we have? To know also, do you know if the tech pilot program will be extended in BC after June 2021? I don't know for a fact, but I don't see why it wouldn't. it has been a very successful program for the people who have those tech jobs here in BC. And it's not like that many people. So it's not like it's costing a lot of in resources or anything like that. So because it's a pretty steady flow of applicants, I don't think the program will be removed. It helps all the companies that are tech companies keep their workers, so I don't think it'll be removed. I don't know if you guys have any other questions. This was kind of a live that I wanted to do to update you. So if you don't have any questions, I'll probably stop the live. So if anybody wants, right now is your chance to type your questions. No problem. Saurabh. Thank you too for connecting, and good luck with your project. Okay, everyone. Well, thanks for signing in today. Hopefully this was helpful. You can listen to it again from the beginning once I posted, just so you know what the news were. Again, mainly I spoke about what happened in the express entry pool this morning. They invited over 27,000 people, but all of them are Canadian experience class. That means that they've all had 1 year of work experience in Canada minimum in the last 3 years. So this does not apply to people who are outside of Canada. It does not apply to people who've never worked in Canada, okay? What is the tech pilot? Okay, Rumi, so basically the tech pilot is a very specific program for, so every province has immigration programs specifically for that province. And the tech pilot is for the province of British Columbia. If you're already here, so that's the first thing that needs to happen, you gotta find yourself here with the job offer. Actually, you might not be here. You might actually be abroad, but you have a job offer from a company here in Canada, it's a tech job, what we call tech job. So imagine software developer, coder, engineer for like computer engineer. So there's a bunch of codes, about 28 codes. I don't remember them all by heart, but there's a lot of codes. These are NOC codes, by the way. That means the kind of job that you're doing. So if you have a job or a job offer in the tech sector in British Columbia, you can apply for something called the Tech Pilot Program, which is just a way to apply for permanent residency that will be a little bit faster, okay? But you still need a job offer. All right. Okay, so, all right, Kabira, thank you for saying hi. If you have a question, please just type the question. All right, guys, so if anybody needs or wants to apply for express entry, which is PR from their country, so far things are the same. The best profile for people to apply, you need to be about 30 years old, you need to have minimum a master's degree, and you need to have perfect English or close to perfect English in speaking, reading, writing, and listening, and you need 3 years of work experience, paid work experience. All right, so I think that's about it for today. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're safe in your countries. 2022 will probably be a better year to immigrate to Canada, just because we hope that there are going to be more vaccinations. But if you don't know what to do this year, you can always just practice more your English, study something else to get more points in your studies. And if you want to study in Canada, that door is still open. And it always is a good idea to come study here, because after you studies, you get a post-graduation work permit. And now you have a work permit to find a job. And now with the job, you can apply for PR. And that program doesn't care about your age. So studying is always a good idea. What about if you are a foreign trained pharmacist? Good question, Nafisa. Look, it's the same. Being a pharmacist is great. So it's the same thing than any other job. You can apply. I mean, I don't know how old you are. Of course, I don't know your profile, but technically you can apply for permanent residency depending on your profile. You can also come in here and study something. If you're a pharmacist, let me give you a tip. Here in British Columbia, there's a program called the BCPNP postgraduate something. So basically, anybody who comes here and studies a master's degree in sciences, after you finish your master's degree, you can apply to permanent residency. And it doesn't matter how old you are, and it doesn't matter if you have a job or not. It doesn't even matter if you've worked before in your country or in Canada. So you, for example, you're a pharmacist, you can come here and study, I don't know, biology, or I don't know if pharmacy is one of the, I don't think pharmacy is on their list. There's a specific list of programs that are eligible for this. But just as an example, you study biochem or chemistry, something related to your background as a master's degree. When you graduate, you can apply for PR. And this goes for all kinds of sciences, okay? Even public health sciences. So yeah, if you are a pharmacist and you want to apply for express entry, however, because you feel like you're young, like you're in your 30 or low 30s or 28 years old, and you got great English and 3 years of work experience, you need to send your pharmacy diploma and transcripts of having studied to a specific institution here that's going to assess your education. They dedicate themselves to only assessing pharmacy diplomas. So let's see if there's another question. If you're older, yeah, Nafisa, if you're older, come study. Anybody who's older, come study. That's the only way. And that's how many families have reached PR. It's coming to study, okay? It sounds terrible because most people don't want to do that, but that's actually the best way. Because you'll never get back your age, unfortunately. All right. Kabir, I'm not here to provide jobs or give LMIA, so I can't really help you. The only thing I can tell you if you want to come is to study, because Canadian employers are not just like giving jobs around. Okay, usually you have to be here first with a work permit, and the way you do that is first studying and graduating and then getting a work permit. Okay, guys. Well, I hope you guys are gonna have a nice rest of the weekend. Happy Valentine's Day. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys on the next time that I do a live. I'm gonna disconnect now. Bye.